Yes, the asteroids theme means only one thing. It's time to say good morning to our Out of This World Friday regular, Mr. Freeview himself, top movie critic as well. In his other lives, it is, of course, Van Connor, our Van Friday Van, with 3 Freeview film recommendations. I've got 3 as well, and we're going to meet in the middle. How was your week, Van? You can tell us now what you made of The Northman, which I know you saw.
I actually didn't see the Northman.
Oh, you didn't see it yet? I can't wait to see it. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. It looks really great, I think. So we had a couple of thumbs up verdicts on it already. Okay, let's talk then about your first recommendation. I had no idea that the Philip Schofield ITV game show The Cube was such a hit. They made a feature film version of it. It passed me by.
Well, they made 2 and a prequel, would you believe? Nah, it's nothing to do with old Phil. It's instead, it's sort of a precursor to the Saw series. This is a 1997 Canadian-made sci-fi horror series launcher from future sort of horror stalwart Vincenzo Natali. This has got a cast of assorted faces you would recognise from the decades since, largely from sort of Canadian genre television, sci-fi shows like Stargate and Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and Nikita and shows like that. And like I say, precursor to the Saw series, a bunch of strangers wake up, no idea where they are, and they're in mysterious cube-shaped rooms that also happen to be death traps and a series of interlocking chambers, and they team up to try and work their way through these puzzles, these mazes and death traps to try and find their way to safety. But of course, there's always a sting in the tail, there's always a twist, and nothing is ever quite what it seems, and the traps themselves may only turn out to be partially as deadly as, you know, the people they're trying to make their way through the traps with. This is a hell of a ride if you've never seen it.
I've never seen this, I must say. I know it had great reviews at the time. It kind of passed me by. I'm going to make sure I catch it, though. And was it the start of a series you were saying then?
Yeah, they made a sequel. Cube 2 Hypercube followed a couple of years later. Then you got a prequel called Cube Zero. There is a Japanese remake that is about to be released, I think, at the moment. But I've got a clip for you of our band of would-be problem solvers. You can see this 11:10 tonight on Film 4. This is them working out that, well, it's not a straight sequence that they're working through, that it may be slightly more complex than they think it is.
Think of the Crystal Maze, but with killing intent. It's Cube, Film 4 tonight, 11:10.
How did he? It's the wren. It's the old Benster. How could... We've been going in circles. That can't be. Where are we?
I don't know.
Where are we?
You figure it out. You haven't done anything. All you do is freak out, you murderer!
Oh, blimey, very full on that one. Then I'm looking forward to that. 11:10 tonight. I'll set the record for that. Now, I've gone for an absolute classic. It had reasonable reviews when it came out, but didn't make a lot of money. It kind of broke even, was regarded as a failure. Black and white film, directed by the great John Huston. A script by Arthur Miller, one of the 20th century's greatest American playwrights, from a short story he'd written. He wrote Death of a Salesman, of course, and The Crucible. It's called The Misfits, and it was the last completed film of both Clark Gable and I think Marilyn Monroe's in it. Clark Gable died 10-12 days after shooting finished, and the release date was what would have been his 60th birthday, the year after. Brilliant, brilliant film. It's about modern cowboys, the death of the West, and the cast for this. I don't know how recently you've seen this. Yes, of course, Clark Gable in what is probably his best acting role. You've got Marilyn Monroe, who's wonderful, vulnerable, incredibly sexy, just charming and lovely. You've also got Montgomery Clift, post his car accident, who's brilliant in the film because he seems so haunted. He's somebody whose mother's remarried after his dad died, so he's working on a ranch, but he's working for what he hates, wages, rather than having being part of the place. And of course, Eli Wallach, who's a great actor who turns up, of course, in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly later on. Great black and white film, this. I mean, it's a master. Now it's regarded as something of a masterpiece, and I think one of the best films of the 60s. It was released in 1961. It's on Great Exclamation Mark Classics. Now, it's on at 6:35 this evening, which is an unusual time, so do set the record for it. But if you've not seen it, you're going to love it. And there's a wonderful movie bit in the end that they're trying to keep some of their old Western cowboy skills, and they go out roping Mustangs, the wild horses, the kind of feral horse, if you like. And in the past, you realise that they used to sell them on to kind of teenage boys and girls, and they'd ride them, only they now want motorbikes and cars. So almost as a metaphor for what's happening to the West and that old world, they're catching them to be slaughtered for dog meat. And it's something so tragic about that, and the looks on their faces when it's work, they keep saying, it's work, we've got to do it. Great film, this, I think. Very kind of dignified film. And and I've got a burst of the trailer. I've set up the situation. Basically, you've got an older cowboy, Clark Gable. You've got Montgomery Clift. You've got Eli Wallach, who spots Marilyn Monroe first, and obviously is, as we might well be, smitten and marrying herself. Difficult production time for her. I mean, she died the following year after it was released as well, so a difficult film with a dark history, but an amazing script and great performances, and it's on 6:35 this afternoon, The Misfits. Here we go.
I just met me a girl sweet enough to eat. Fine-looking woman.
How'd he do?
I have an empty house out in the country just beyond Hawleyville. It's all yours if you want some peace and quiet before you go back.
Gee, goes on forever.
There's no better place to be. You couldn't find better company either.
You're a real beautiful woman. You think you could break away from this paradise long enough to do a little Mustanging?
Horses?
We'd have to pick up another man.
Well, better than wages, ain't it?
Well, anything's better than wages.
I mean, Montgomery Clift, a great actor, kind of sometimes didn't make the right film choices. Of course, subject of a song, a brilliant song by the Clash of all bands on their album London Calling. So, I mean, I don't think I'm overstating this. This is a kind of great, it's a great example of filmmaking from John Huston, but great performances in this film, I think.
I think so. I think it's a very good, what we call an existential Western as well. A Western that is about, sort of, as you say, the death of the Western and its place in society as well. This is quite a good one, actually. I hadn't seen this in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's a cracking movie. Listen, going to your selection for tomorrow, you've gone for a Spider-Man spin-off, Film 4:20 tomorrow afternoon. Great Easter Saturday watching. Tell us the one you've gone for, because there's a positive plethora of web-slinger films, aren't there?
But yeah, this is not even the only multiverse Spider-Man anymore, but this is the only one that I think's won an Oscar. So this is the best animated feature-winning Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse, which we of course covered when it won its Oscar in early 2019. The animated adventure that teams up a previously unseen in the world of film Spider-Man, Miles Morales, an alternative Spider-Man to the usual Peter Parker, and he's the young teenage boy discovering himself through the discovery of his new Spider-Man powers, and he's forced to team up with other Spider-Men from different timelines and different branches of the multiverse, which include, of course, Jake Johnston's Peter B. Parker, a sort of dad bod age sort of screw-up version of the Spider-Man we know and love. You've got Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen, but most importantly, and this needs to be acknowledged because it's the greatest part of the movie, and of course it's only a week before his great, his career resurrection comes full circle, Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir, and they all team up to fight the Kingpin. I've got a clip for you of Peter B. Parker training Miles in how to, as we now know it, web thwip or web sling. You can see this, basically perfect Easter Saturday kind of view. It's on 4:20 in the afternoon on Film 4. Perfect Saturday afternoon, kind of pre-tea time viewing. If you've got kids, regardless of age, and they've never seen it, they are going to be blown the hell away by this. It is one heck of a ride. Great fun to say. Got a clip for you. This is the web-slinging training from Into the Spider-Verse.
And suitable for vegetarians because there's no spider pig. Here we go.
Aim with your hips. Look where you want it to hit. Doing it. Double tap to release and whip it out again. Okay. Whip and release. And whip, release. Whip and release. You're a natural. Whip, release. Feel the rhythm? Good, Miles. I gotta say, you're amazing, man. We're a little team. Me as the teacher who could still do it. You as the student who can do it, just not as good. I'm proud of us. Is there something you want to say to me?
I love the dialogue in that film as well. You're the student who can do it, but not as good. It's just a great unnatural line of dialogue. That's on 4:20 tomorrow afternoon on Film 4. I've gone for a film that I kind of stumbled onto. I resisted seeing it in the cinema. I don't quite know why, because I'd heard that Tom Cruise had been attached to it and turned it down. And it's around the time I think he made that film, which wasn't a big hit, Night and Day. And I thought it's going to be a formulaic thriller. Well, when I called it on the telly, I was really impressed with it. I don't know what you thought of it, but it's on tomorrow night, Ben, Film 4, 10 o'clock. Angelina Jolie and Liev Schreiber in that kind of melon-twisting spy espionage, sleeper agent, who's a traitor, who's not, film called Salt from 2010. And the setup's brilliant, folks. There's a Russian who's defected, says he's got information. Liev Schreiber, who's a kind of head of intelligence, shadowy figure, sends in Angelina Jolie, because she's the best debriefer we've got. She'll break you in a matter of minutes. And one of the things is, and her name's Evelyn Salt, hence the Salt of the title. And one of the things this guy says is, as a sleeper agent at the heart of the American intelligence network, who's going to kill the president and obviously start World War III or whatever the MacGuffin he said. And her name is, and there's Angelina Jolie in there, Evelyn Saltz, and she says, that's not right, that's me, and one of the great chases ensues. Lots of CGI in this film, but doesn't make it a bad thing, looks better on the telly, and I think for me, when I watched it, I thought, I've got no idea where this is going, and then reading about it afterwards, I found that he shot at least one alternate ending to it, so it's one of those films that you got the sense that there's a kind of roller coaster sense to it, but maybe they didn't even know where they were taking it, because at one time it was going to be a Tom Cruise film, then he passed on it, Too Close to Mission Impossible. Angelina Jolie was recommended, because she once said, I think she offered the chance to be a Bond girl, and said, no, I want to play James Bond. And so she started like could have been another action franchise. Did you rate this film when it came out, Van?
I actually did. Now, this, as I was say, this was intended to be the start of a series, and it was a decent box office hit. Now, the movie itself, as you say, is pretty good. It works as a sort of Bourne-esque kind of female-driven thriller. Actually, the gender side of it is kind of immaterial to the movie. It's kind of interesting, but obviously...
And that's quite refreshing, isn't it? It's quite good, that, because, yeah. And she does those martial arts kind of acting bits really well indeed. So obviously, very fit and very honed and very kind of great at that kind of balletic stuff. So that side of it really works, I think.
Yeah, really, like you say, really great set pieces in there. Jolie handles the physicality of it incredibly well. There's some great action set pieces in, like you say about that chase. Like, that's the thing I remember about this movie always, is that chase when you have the interrogation scene, then her immediate sort of fleeing of the building is the bit you always remember. It's a heck of a movie. Like, she's great in it. Like I say, it was a decent hit. I know Philip Noyce directed this, who did, I think, the second two the Harrison Ford Jack Ryan movies.
Oh, right, yes.
The best forgotten Val Kilmer version of The Saint. So I would say this is in the sort of mid to upper echelon of his body of work. But good ride. Like I said, Jolie's tops in this.
So Film 4, tomorrow night, 10 p.m, it's Salt from 2010. Here's a burst of the trailer.
You got a walk-in. A defector.
No one can sort out a nut job from the real thing faster than you.
Today, a Russian agent will travel to New York City to kill the president.
This guy's selling smoke. Wrap it up, Ev.
The name of the agent is Evelyn Salt.
My name is Evelyn Salt.
Then you are a Russian spy.
And then the fun begins, of course. And my final recommendation is, well, I started with a modern-ish Western. I've gone for a modern take on a revisionist Western, and it's set around the time of the Wild Bunch. So it's set as the West is kind of dying, and it is, of course, from 1969. I mean, it's the biggest hit Fox had profit-wise up until then. The year before, I think they'd lost a fortune on Dr. Dolittle, which died at the box office as a stinker of a film. And then we had George Roy Hill, Paul Newman, Robert Redford, Catherine Ross, no relation sadly, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. It cost about $5-6 million, made over $100 million, which is some big return. It's on ITV4 Sunday at 10 to 11 in the morning. So it's a 10 to 11 movie. I mean, if you're, hopefully you won't be hungover for Sunday, but if you're up and about early and you want to set the record, if you've not seen this before, the soundtrack won an Oscar, the main song won an Oscar. It's a great movie, this. I mean, George Roy Hill then went on to win an Oscar, I think, Best Director for The Sting. He should really have got it for this film, because this is a lovely mixture of, kind of, you know, some kind of lovely plays with the cinema when they're doing bank robberies out and about in Bolivia, I think, and stuff. So, a great film, this one. You may have seen it. It's worth catching every couple of years, this movie. And again, it kind of rewrote the film history, because it kind of regave us a buddy movie feel, I think, after Hope and Crosby. I mean, these two guys, as well as being great action heroes, they're fantastic together as a kind of comedy double act, I think.
Oh God, yeah, they got a hell of a chemistry. But also, it was the great Who Do You Fancy of the day, wasn't it?
Catherine Ross, without a shadow of a doubt.
Of course, Mr. Ross. But that's the thing, isn't it? This is the thing as well, because obviously Sundance gave us the Sundance Festival we got from the title of this movie. Like, you point out the song, the ending is so iconic for this as well. And it's one of those things, like you said about Dr. Dolittle having bombed for the studios before. It's funny that that's happened again recently in the last couple of years. Let's hope that history doesn't repeat and try and remake this, because this is one of those movies that I think should be avoided. Never touch this movie again. Like, they'll try and remake this in a few years. Let's pray they never do.
There's a terrible prequel, of course. Well, not terrible, just unnecessary prequel, Butch and Sundance, the early years, because it's made so much money. And there's a clue there that they couldn't really make a sequel to it. And it starts with a great cinematic get-out-of-jail legend. Most of what follows is true. Here's some of what follows.
Well, that ought to do it.
And just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed.
Think you used enough dynamite there, Butch?
Nothing seems to fit those.
This is a robbery. Esto es un robo.
Raindrops are falling on my head. They keep falling.
I always thought I was going to grow up to be a hero.
Well, it's too late now.
So I just did me some talking to the sun.
Listen, I don't mean to be a sore loser, but when it's done, if I'm dead, kill him. Love to.
I mean, I love some of the lines in the film.
Spider-Man.
I love some of the lines in the film. Like, rules in a knife fight shook me before Butch Cassidy kicks the guy in the ghoulies. And of course, there's that brilliant line when they try and go straight, that they're going to preserve gold mined in Bolivia, and they're worried about being robbed with a wage packet, and they're going down the hill. I think they're in the bushes. They're in the trees. I think they're in the bushes. And the old guy who's with them says, I got morons on the team. No one's going to rob us going down the mountain when we're going to the bank to get the money. They're going to rob us on the way back up. You just think it's such a brilliant kind of mistake, this two sheepish guy, because they're kind of clumsy. I mean, Sundar's a brilliant gunslinger. And the opening scene, when Paul Newman's character is established, when he tries to talk the guy out of taking on Sundar's kid, and the guy doesn't realise it's the fastest gun in the West. He's just hysterical every time, I think. So, written by William Goldman, a great scriptwriter as well, of course. That's my final recommendation for the bank holiday weekend. Sunday, ITV4, 10:50 in the morning. And you've gone for, well, you've seen my Butch Cassidy in the Sundance, and you've raised it and trumped me with E.T. Easter Sunday afternoon. Come on, you win hands down this week, man.
You kind of do, don't you? Pulling out E.T. for a Sunday afternoon film on Easter Sunday is kind of the ultimate win, really. I mean, I saw a 5-hour-long documentary recently called In Search of Tomorrow, a great documentary chronicling 80s science fiction cinema, like I say, 5 hours long. Wow. And they had like 4 or 5 minutes dedicated to E.T. And in that space, they played 2 clips, and I was reduced to actual bubble. I was sobbing based on 2 30-second clips. So you'll get a hint of it from our clip that we're going to play in a minute, but it's of course Steven Spielberg's, well, not even career-defining. His career had already been defined 2 or 3 films earlier, I think, at that point, with Jaws, Close Encounters, and then Indy as well. And this, I think, then forms film number 4. Brilliant, sort of the definitive Amblin story. Young boy befriends the alien who has crashed on Earth, is trying to find his way home, is taken in secret by the neighborhood kids as they sort of, try to reunite him and get him with his people and get him home. Henry Thomas as Elliot, the lead in this, absolutely sort of defining the definition of the Spielbergian child actor. You've got Drew Barrymore in there. I think
Drew Barrymore's wonderful in this. She's wonderful in this, isn't she? Absolutely wonderful.
A very famous story that she, while on set, they would have to keep the puppet going to interact with her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they did point out to her that E.T. wasn't real, she would turn around and say, I know that, I'm not stupid.
Well, also, when she drags him up for a tea party, it's just hysterically funny. It's kind of the all little sisters would do, given half the chance with your Action Man, isn't it?
Exactly. So I've got a clip for you. This is the other kids being introduced to E.T. when he's hiding in the closet for the first time, and Elliot reveals him to his brother and sister. Everything about this clip is vintage for this movie, like that John Williams score, the feel of the scene, the emotion, the performances from the child.
Can I make a personal thank you to Steven Spielberg for introducing, I hope, a new generation of film lovers and film goers to John Ford's masterpiece, The Quiet Man, which I've recommended before, because the scene when Elliot kind of is in telepathic communication with E.T. and kisses a girl in the classroom, a drunk E.T. is watching one of the great romantic films of all time, The Quiet Man. Everything works about this film, doesn't it?
Everything does. Also introduced a generation of kids of the world over to Reese's Pieces, I believe, as well. I think in the process gave birth to the modern concept of product placements. What all begins with this movie.
I think they approached M&M's, and M&M's said, yeah, you can use that stuff if you pay us. And I think Spielberg think you may be missing a trick here. And they certainly were they not? So when's this one on, Ben? When can we see the mighty E.T.?
So you can see this, ITV2, 3:25 in the afternoon on Sunday. Perfect Easter Sunday view for the whole family, I think. But good Lord, make sure you've got the boxes of tissues to hand. But I'll leave you in the comfortable hands of Elliot and Gertie.
It's 40 years old this year. It's as fresh as the day it was first shot. It's ITV2, Sunday afternoon, 3:25 p.m. It's E.T.
Elliot.
I'm keeping him. What is it? He won't hurt you, Gertie. He won't hurt you, Gertie. I'm not gonna hurt you. Is he a boy or a girl? He's a boy. Was he wearing any clothes? No. But look, you can't tell. Not even Mom. Why not? Because, grown-ups can't see him. Only little kids can see him. give me a break.
And the bikes take flight, and not a dry eye in the house. Now, of course, you give us an excellent podcast each and every Friday alongside Rebecca Perfect. She's back with us Monday, of course, with a technology and showbiz overview. Tell us about Off-Screen, if you will, please, Van. What's on offer this week?
Oh, you can catch us giving you a 7-day guide to everything movies. This week we've got some absolute bangers. We've got a throwback to Romancing the Stone with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum in The Lost City. We've got very interesting a 3-hour Japanese post-World War II jungle set drama called Onoda, which would very much interest you, I think, Paul. Something for everyone. All the streaming, all the Freeview, everything. You find us on podcast platforms from 6 a.m. on this week's Off-Screen show.
Okay, folks, unless you're driving or operating heavy machinery, or indeed a brain surgeon at work, close your eyes now and imagine you're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and you're on a bike, and E.T.'s in the basket, and you're about to take flight. Cheers, Van Connor.